Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference. I am Yolanda Joy and I am absolutely thrilled to have Kendra Payne on with us today. I have been watching her journey over the past year or so, doing something that I think a lot of herbalists would kind of dream of doing. It's definitely one of my dreams, what I would love to do in the future. And that is to set up a physical shop selling herbal products. Kendra, I am so glad that you could join us today.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm just really excited to share what I've been up to.
Yeah, well, I really do think it's been such a great journey. Because you started your shop like in the middle of 2020, in the middle of like all of the pandemic stuff, but you just kind of went through it and you got to hurdles and kept on going and got to where you are now, which is like incredible in itself. But like without me saying too much of your story, would you like to introduce a little bit about like how you got started and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. I don't know how far we want to go back, but I feel like at some point in my life, I was always practicing herbalism, whether I knew it or not. I was just talking to my mom about this the other day. Like when I was a child, I would be like picking up things outside and like putting them into jars and then like pouring like whether it was water or vinegar or oil and then like putting a lid on it and then storing it in the back of my mother's cabinets, which, I thought was really fun, but like when she was pulling out pasta or rice or something, and then a jar of like mud vinegar fell out and crashed everywhere, she wasn't really excited about that. But in some way, shape, or form, I feel like I was practicing herbalism, even though I had no idea what that was. But now, hindsight being 2020 and kind of figuring out how I got to this point, I'm like, oh, I can remember these little points along the way. It was in my right after I graduated college. I was pretty unhealthy and was feeling sick a lot. And I had spent so much time in hospitals and doctors and different specialists and wasn't getting any answers to, and still don't have any answers to what I was experiencing. And so what I basically did without having any background in it was to just overhaul kind of all the aspects of my life, meaning diet and exercise and mindfulness, and bringing all of that in to see what would happen. I mean, I wasn't having any success the other way. And so as I started that journey, it just started to evolve and get even deeper into it. I was really specific about kind of the food that I was putting in and how I was able to use like, kitchen medicine or kitchen herbs to be able to help with my immunity, because I was a person who would get the flu in the middle of July. Like I was having bronchitis in August. Like it made no sense. Like those are things that, people get, but it's usually in the wintertime. So something about my immunity was really off and depleted. So I was like, okay, well, how can I do this? So I just started reading and kind of getting into herbalism in that way, just to help with my own health. And so a lot of that stuff evolved one thing into another as I was, taking care of my body through exercise. And I was really practicing like yoga and mindfulness. I started to become a teacher and still am. And then as that grew and I was learning about the science of Ayurveda, again, I was brought back to herbs and how that supports our body. And then wanted to also, appreciate that lineage, but also see what I could gather from Western herbalism. And so I started to study with the Herbal Academy to be able to get some scientific information to go with kind of the things that I was already doing to be able to bring me to, a version of this point. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, for sure. It's so good to like hear about people's journeys and how they uh became an herbalist, I guess, because it's different for everyone. And I can definitely relate to that, like kind of concoctions and things as a child, and then like realizing later on like, it was just me like tinkering with plants from the beginning, and then just like that continual deepening of the interest. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so when it comes to your actual, like you're right now in your shop, the Herbal Scoop, which is what you've kind of set up your physical place for your herbs. Can you tell me a little bit about your vision for the shop and how that all came to be?
Yeah, so what I knew from like just my personal practice is that I was then becoming like the resident, fix it gal. Like, I would have friends and family being like, I have this, what can I take? When I've spent many years performing, and so when I was traveling with different gigs, I would always have this like tea concoction that would always help my voice warm up. I'm a singer, help my voice warm up and keep my vocal cords and this whole like system very healthy and strong. So then once other actors and actresses found out, like, okay, well, she has this tea. Like, so when they were out on contract, then they would text me, like, what is that tea? I need to make some of that. So it was already happening that people were asking, kind of what I was doing. So when I decided to launch the Herbal Scoop, what I wanted it to be is a place of discovery for two reasons. One, because I wanted people to be in the driver's seat of their own wellness. What I experienced going through doctors and all of this other stuff is I was waiting for people to give me the answer. Like, you have this, do this. And I would just, take the pills or do whatever they told me to do so that I could be, fixed. And I don't want people to think about their herbalism practice in that way. I don't want them to see me as the all-knowing person to give them the perfect herb that's going to help them balance whatever it is they want to balance. So I really wanted this to be a place of discovery, but also I wanted it to be fun. Like, there are people who come in who have never practiced with herbs. There are people who have a long-standing practice, and they can come into the shop and they can see different stuff that they may be called to try. The way that you'll like my labels are set up is that it has the name of the herb and it has just some very simple beginner ways to use it. And I don't use more than 3 little things. It'll say like great for balancing stress, or it'll say like just very simple things so that people can say like, this might be something that I should pay attention to. Let me ask some more information. So again, just a place of knowledge and discovery so that people feel like they're making choices for them instead of me telling them, hey, you need this thing.
I really love that about like the suggestion on the labels. It's like an invitation to ask people to ask more questions so that you can have that conversation with them and really share your passion for herbalism with them. Like I'm interested to know, like, how is that now that you've got the shop set up? Like, do you often get questions from customers, and like how do those conversations go?
Yeah, I I answer questions all day, every day, about things that people are experiencing, or maybe it's it's an herb that they've heard about. Ashwagandha is one. It's it's very popular. It's in all the like the little wellness blogs and things like that. So they'll come in and be like, "Oh, I heard of this. What is this?" The thing that you have to be aware of for herbalists is just to watch those conversations to make sure that you're not suggesting that something treats something. And so for me, the way that I do that is just to continue to ask questions so that the answer kind of reveals itself. Like, if someone were to come in, and a lot of times they'll say like, oh, I have problems with digestion, what do you have for digestion? I'm like, well, I mean, how much time do you have? Like, when we're talking about digestion, what are we talking about? Like, well, tell me what you experience. And so they'll go through that. And I'm like, okay, well, when is the last time you felt that way? What were you eating? And so like we're getting to the core of something, and then I can be like, okay, so let's look at this. And we'll pull out a specific herb. I might pull out a sample and really talk to them about it, whether it's a root or a flower or whatever it is, and get them some information so that they can decide. And what I always tell people, and I'm like, this is my this is the information that I'm giving you. I suggest all people to like go home, pull up the information that they're comfortable with. If they have other people in their like wellness team, ask them. Like, I want you to feel so confident coming in here that you could pull that herb off the shelf and like scoop out some for yourself. So like, whether or not you buy something here today is like not what I'm here for. I want you to feel empowered to make the choices that you want, you get the herbs that you want and or need, so that you can help your wellness and feel really balanced and really good.
That is like such a great philosophy, I think, like, because that's what I I resonate with that. And I think most herbalists do really just want to help people and empower the people to, like, take back control of their health. Because I mean, herbalism has been over the like forever just like part of the people's medicine, and just empowering the people and having that as a part of the philosophy of your whole shop is really admirable, I think. And I think it's beautiful the way that you have put that together. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. One of the struggles or hurdles for people to actually do something like what you're doing now is like the funding to get started. Like there is so much to set up a shop. Like the obvious things, like you have to find a place, the rent, but then like even like shelving and the like this everything. Like how did you go about doing that? Like how did you get the funding to make your dream into what it is today?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two part. So I had like a little tiny shelf space in a yoga studio in the neighboring town. Was kind of like my first rendition of the herbal scoop. And for that, I like just pulled that out of money that I had been saving from a yoga job. Like it was like one of my yoga jobs, I had just put like a check away each time and kind of saved up from that. And then the pandemic hit and I had to pull everything out. And so a lot of the shelving and stuff, even though I could have taken it with me, it's just like that money was lost. So I was like, oh, cool. All right. What are we going to do next? And so uh, this space was available, and what you can't see right now is it's also connected to the commercial kitchen that I work out of. And so I was like, okay, I have this opportunity to do something really cool, and the space is available. How do I get from all of my herbs being in my kitchen and like basically kicking out all of my other pantry items to this shop, which you see right now behind me? And so I decided to go with a GoFundMe, like community Kickstarter sort of campaign. And that was probably the thing that brought me out of my comfort zone the most in my entire life. And even though I've been on stages across the world, I have sung everywhere that I've ever wanted to. And that moment of like clicking the launch button, I was so uncomfortable with. I think that I do not love asking for help. And it was this whole like mental battle of like, oh, well, people are going to know you don't have the money to do this. And whatever, kind of doom spiral that came from. And like, what are people going to think about me? And I was like talking to my sisters who are like, they're like my high court and about this. And I was just like, I can't do it. Like, am I asking too much? Like, I'm never going to get it. All of these like self-doubt moments that were just like flooding in. And one of my sisters was just like, you literally don't have anything to lose. Like if nobody clicks launch, you're not any worse off. You can just find another way. You could get a loan, you could do a bunch of different things, or you can wait. So like, let's just see what happens. And so I was like, okay. And so I hit launch for my ask, and my ask was 10,000, which I was also very uncomfortable with. But what I knew was that when I set up the first shop, that cost, and it was like 3 shelves and a desk, and that cost me about $5,000 to do. And I knew that this shop space was bigger than that. So I was like, okay, let me ask for double that, then let's just see what happens. I didn't have very much in my bank account. We were going through COVID, so I had lost my job because I was a yoga practitioner, and that that wasn't happening. I was not an essential worker, so I needed help from the community. And so for me, that was the best way through, and it ended up working out. And I ended up getting the shop funded by the community and my social media followers and family members as well.
Yeah, that is such an amazing story. And I love that you shared how uncomfortable you felt, because of that is like it is a struggle to ask for money or ask for support and put yourself in that place of vulnerability. Like I can't actually do that myself, but I would like to do this. Can you help me? And just sharing it out. But like that's why it's so important to have sisters or people that you can rely on and just be like, what is there to lose? Just go and try it, and like putting yourself out there and trying it, then you work out that it works and you get where you want to go. So that's great that you were able to do that, I think.
Yes, it was.
Would you be able to like show us quickly around your shop now? Like are you able to turn your camera around just quickly to give us a little peek into what you have created?
Sure. So what I'll right behind me is part of my herbal wall. So at the top, you'll see like those jars look a little bit bigger. Those are kind of like my heavy hitters that people ask for all the time. So I try to keep those pretty well stocked. And then I have two other rows. I actually just switched this around the other day because I was finding that people weren't navigating the space the way I wanted them to. So I moved this to be like an entire wall of herbs here. Everything is alphabetical so that I can, grab things pretty efficiently. So this is the main wall, which is right behind my like my cash register space. And then if I move over here on this side, what you see behind me again is another row of those big heavy hitter herbs. And then I created some signage here, which I don't know, it might be backwards to you, but here are my herbal boosters or tinctures, and I kind of walk people through what that practice looks like different from the teas. And then this is my main wall here, which is right at the entrance of my space, which has all of my herbal tea blends. It also has some accessories here. And then this is my seasonal shelf. So right now it's all about winter wellness, again, with some accessories. And that's a combination of tinctures. We've got some teapots there, and we also have blended teas. And then you'll see over here my ancestral wall with Harriet Tubman at the top and Emma Dupree at the bottom. And that will continue to grow as I find artists to commission more work. And then what I've done, which I don't know how, yeah, so that's kind of where everything is. I converted a big dresser storage space for me because, as you know, as herbalists, we have tons of stuff in backstock. We've got jars, we've got more herbs. I also have teapots and things like that. And this is a small space. It's a community space. It's kind of like a flea market. It's called the Callicoon Market here. And so we have other vendors in this space. So in my space is technically 100 square feet. And what I've done is use all the vertical space. So it's not very big. And so what I was able to do is convert this like very large furniture piece for storage back here so that it looks really neat, all the drawers closed. And so that way I'm able to keep some back stock so I don't have to keep ordering as well. So that's the space. What I didn't show you, I have a little fridge with some elderberry syrup and some oxymels as well. And yeah, and so we're able to do a lot in a little bit of space. And should this ever grow, I'll be able to take all of this with me to, oh, I do want to show you one thing. Let's see if I can get it in the shot. Yes, my sign. Eat more plants, drink more leaves, which is a piece I did commission an artist to do, and that is live moss. So that's kind of fun.
Wow, that looks, yeah, it's so cool just to see inside it and get the personalized tour. And I love the little secret compartments that you've got just to restock things as you go. Like everyone needs their secret compartments in their shop. My hobbies is to go and look at herbal shops and just look at the displays and how things are set up, because like it really is something I would love to do in the future, just the way and so when I travel now, I make it a point to go to herbal shops and have a look at the displays and get ideas. So it's so nice to see how you've set your space up, and it's you can see that you've put you've been intentional about it as well, or even the way that you change stuff around based on the way you see people navigating your store. Like it's all part of the process, I believe, of running an online an in-person brick and mortar store.
I mean, everything that I've done here, like I wanted everything to be really bright and accessible, really clean. That's just the aesthetic. I wanted it to feel accessible and modern to people. I didn't want to feel like they were coming into a space where they didn't like, where they, weren't comfortable, but like needed a certain amount of knowledge to even come into the space. I've been in the wellness business for 12 years, so I can go into some of these spaces that have like all these herbs and it's handwritten tags and kind of stuff all over the place, and find my way through. But I know that that's not the experience for everyone, especially because like you, I will go into a lot of like crystal shops, herb shops, and like go in and just like see what it is that they're doing and how they're offering stuff. But I know like if my sisters are with me or my partner's with me, that they're just like kind of like just like looking around and not like having the same experience. So I wanted everyone to feel like they could come in, labels are bright, the font is big, the lighting is really bright, and it's just like, oh, these are really cool. Maybe I'm gonna look at the things that are yellow. Maybe I'm gonna look at herbs that I already know about, or I want just like a really fun tea. And these are the things that they can just come see without feeling like, oh, I have to be an herbalist or know an herbalist in order to come in here and enjoy the space.
And that is such an important piece as well, like being inviting and like having that so that more people can come and see what herbalism is all about. Like it's not just about having our own little group of herbalists, it's about like expanding it and being there for the people, which is cool that it's part of your philosophy there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to find out more a little bit about like so the process of setting up your shop. So whether it was the first time or the second time, um, what was the biggest struggle that you came across like to get started, and how did you overcome that? Oh, my hand's going everywhere.
I don't know the biggest, but I mean, there's a lot of different things to navigate. I mean, here, especially in New York, I've heard is a little bit difficult to navigate. Like this like FDA and all the different systems to figure out who's allowed to tell you like everything is good to go. Go ahead and open your space. And so I spent, I mean, probably 2 months or more just figuring out and kind of playing or playing tennis with the different organizations to figure out, okay, who is kind of watching over this space. And so like I went through the FDA, and then they sent me to like my local chapter. They sent me to another New York, like Ag and Markets, who sent me to the health department, who bounced me back to like Cornell. Like I was all over the place, and I was just like, I just want to do this the right way. And I'm willing to work with whoever, send me the paperwork. Do I need a license? Like, what is it that I need to be able to, you know, uh, open these doors and do it in the right way? So that was really frustrating to me because I wasn't trying to skirt the system. I was actually being like, hey, I'm here. Like, let's work together and like, let's get this open. Um, and so I have actually my next door neighbors, they run a coffee and tea business in the next town over. And I was like, okay, well, they're tea. I'm herbal tea. Maybe it's your person. Who do you work with? And so I finally got in touch with them. And still I like legit had to beg. I was like, just please, like, or will you do it? She's like, no, we can't do it. And I was like, okay, well, fine. And I got in touch with the FDA, and they were like, we just send us your information so that we know you exist, and you're good to go. And I was like, are sure? Are you sure? Because that didn't feel right either. But when it came down to it, I did get the kind of go ahead from my local chapter of the FDA being like, yes, this, that's fine, because I was doing mostly herbal teas. And then the same, it's called Ag and Markets here in New York. I was able to work with them, and they finally, like, actually, once I even opened the shop, they came in, they're like, hey, they're like, we're from Ag and Markets. I was like, I've been talking to you for months. And they're like, they looked at my shop and they're like, oh yeah, that should be us. And I was like, like I told you, like I knew it. So now we have a great relationship, and they come in and we, laugh and talk and stuff, and we've got it all figured out. But that was one thing that I was like, I'm just nervous to open this, and like, who is supposed to, you know, check and make sure that things are excuse me, running the way that they're supposed to, and that the health codes and all this other stuff. I was doing it because I had spent time in, I would call it my previous life, in the restaurant world, so I knew a lot of what I had to navigate to stay safe. But I just wanted someone to like sign off on it, so to make sure I was doing everything. So that was pretty frustrating to get the specific agency to work with me. once that was done, I felt really good moving forward with my vision because I knew everything else was gonna, kind of line up the way it needed to.
Yeah. I can imagine that would like it sounds like the most difficult part was like the beginning or working out how to navigate it. Like it was almost like the idea was more daunting than like what it actually ended up being. I mean, there were lots of steps that you went through there, but once you got started or you found the other tea shop and you used that contact, it kind of all fell into place slowly. Or I'm sure there was a lot of work hard like behind the scenes, but the way you say it, it sounds like it kind of came together in a way that worked for you.
Yeah, it's definitely worked now. It was very difficult to get everybody to, or just someone to say like, hey, and raise their hand and be like, hey, we'll do it. I don't know how many times I heard, well, like it's herbalism is such a gray area because it's not really food and it's not really like, I was like, I know. That's why I'm trying to like have these conversations. And I almost felt like I spent a bit of time um, educating these agencies as to what herbalism is a little bit, like give them a clearer definition, and then another step as to what I'm doing, because of course we know herbalism can go into a lot of different offerings. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. Is this something that you would like to be a part of? Is this something that you can help me license or navigate? And they're like, I had one agency was like, what's herbalism again? What do you? And I was like, okay, let's start from the beginning. So that was frustrating. And I imagine other people who are wanting to open their own shop or even just go to market are going to have to navigate that as well. And what makes it even more confusing, and I don't know if it's like this where you are, is that here every state has different laws. And it can even go down to different counties and all of that other stuff. So just being really knowledgeable and patient, most importantly, to try and dig a little bit deeper to get your person, whoever you need to like kind of sign off on what it is you're doing.
Yeah, it does sound like that. Like each person has to carve out their own pathway a little bit because of like you say, herbalism is such a gray area, and it is different between each state, each country, each like everywhere, or even each like auditor or person that comes to like check it off. Sometimes there's different gray areas between the actual people in the same area as well. And so like it is just about like being assertive and asking the right questions and kind of making it happen with in the way that you can where you are. So like that's just all about persistence and carving your own way forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so like for someone who, I mean, this does depend on where people are, but if there is someone who's watching that would like to set up their own shop similar to what you have done, what would you recommend they do? Like what steps or pathway or what would you recommend they do from now to set up their shop?
I would say, I mean, setting like physically setting up the shop surprisingly was probably the easiest part of it. It's the pre-work like we were just talking about. If you know your concept, what you're doing, if you have maybe a formula or a recipe that you can share, and you kind of know exactly who you want to support and who you want to serve, that's going to help all the other steps roll out. Like I knew I spent a lot of time in not necessarily my branding in terms of like color and name, but like, okay, what is it that I want to make? What is it that I want to support? What are the, the, I don't want to call them diseases, but the things that I want to help fix or balance. For me, from my background, it was like immunity, and I wanted to look at stress, how those kind of work together. And so that's mainly what my shop is set up for. There are a few other things as well. But I wanted to be really clear on what it is that I'm doing, what is my perspective, what is my way in, who are my people, all of these things. And then it made me, having that information allowed me to then have these conversations with the FDA. Like talking to the FDA, you're like, okay, this is a big deal. Like once I finally got in contact with them, I wanted to make sure that I had all of my kind of like ducks in a row so I could say, okay, here's who I am, here's what I've done in the past, here's if they wanted to know like revenue, if they wanted to know a recipe, like I had all of these papers and everything ready to go just in case they were to ask. And so I would say spend time getting really specific about that, beyond, again, beyond your name and your colors and all of that other stuff, which can come and, you know, probably will change. It's like, who are you as an herbalist? Who do you want to serve? What products are you going to spend your time making? What are you good at? All of those things, get that ready, get that specific, feel really good about it, so that as you go through the other steps and you're going through moments of doubt about clicking that launch button, or your permit's not ready, you're just like, okay, let me go back to the reason why I started this business. Let me go back to my community. Those, if you get clear in the beginning, those can be moments of like comfort and joy that you can lean on as things get tough, as, you know, money comes into it and all the other hurdles that you're going to have to navigate through opening up a brick and mortar.
Wow. Yeah, I think that is a really good point that you make there. Just that, like that that core, that why you do it, to like the who you are, who you serve, and how those two pieces come together. Like if you have clarity on that, you're going to be able to like do the rest of the process as well. And like the more clear that you are on like your purpose as an herbalist, the easier it is to actually follow through on like the action as well, because you have that kind of drive, you know what it is, and you're going to kind of get it done. And so like I think that's such an important point that you make, just like know that, so that you can like follow through the rest of the process, because it is a big process.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things that are going to pull you away, or going to make you doubt what you're doing, or going to be really frustrating. Like if you're actually building a space, or you're having to redecorate a space and you're a contractor, or you're this, or you're that, you're just going to get overwhelmed. There was a point when I was speaking to my husband, I was like, I'm going to need to fall apart. So this week, can you just keep it together? Can we get food? Can we get all of these different things? I'm going to be the person who is going to be like all over the place. And I was like, can I get that from you? Because I really need it. Like as we were getting through kind of the final weeks and I was waiting for things to arrive, and I was spending, you know, sun up to sundown in here building out stuff. And so it's just going to get really overwhelming. And if you can't lean back on, okay, I want to work with these people, or I'm here to teach, or I'm here, whatever the thing is that you want to do, if you don't have that, it's really hard to push through those moments when you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard, you know? And so just be really passionate about why it is you want to start your brick and mortar, and why it, like who you want to serve again and again when things get tough.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. Like, telling your family members that like now is a stressful time, I'm business, like can you hold the fort when it comes to home stuff like that. I do that with my husband all the time. I'm like, like this month I'm like focused on promo, like my head's not going to be there. You've got to like hold the ship for these few weeks, and then like, and having that support. And like I really do think it's important to let them know beforehand so that they're prepared for it, because if you go into it without telling them and then you're all over the place, they're like, what's going on? But if you tell them in advance, like, I'm going to be all over the place, please help me, then it's like setting up for that teamwork going forward. And having that support is like so important to actually bring it all together and make it work. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's great that you do that, and I definitely do the same thing. Yeah. I would love to know, like, so my final thing that I would like to know is like your whole journey of setting up your brick and mortar, the Herbal Scoop. What would be your like most proud moment that you are proud of as an herbalist?
I'm I would say I'm really proud of like actually doing the thing. And like during the pandemic, which seems like the wrong thing to do, like you opened a business during the pandemic when there's like so much uncertainty. Um, and so I guess if I zero in, I guess I'm really proud of like trusting my gut. From, you know, kind of March all the way through today, there have been thousands of reasons I could have just been like, nope, not right now, or maybe a smaller version of it, or all of these different things. I could have limited myself from, participating in my actual dream. So kind of really listening and be like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that it doesn't seem like this should be the right time, but it is the right time. And I just sat back and kind of listened to the signs without like really sounding like too like woo woo about it. It was just like, things were happening. Like this store opened itself up and there was a space where this space is not usually available. And then, this commercial kitchen, like there were these things that were lining up in my business, that now being in the wellness business for, like I said, 12 plus years, now it's the right time, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic. And so I felt like I feel really proud that I was able to like hone in and listen to my gut, because the proof now is here. Like it's happening. The community here is growing. People are feeling really good about being in this space. There's so many people that come in, they're like, oh, I've been following you on Instagram for, such and such time. Or my friend just came in and saw you and they love this tea. And I've, like the things are now starting to, get even bigger in these next steps. I've been officially open since November, even though I had my online space. So if that can be a lesson to anyone, like if you're getting that kind of nudge, if you're getting that calling, listen to it, see how you can respond to it. It may not be, this version of the shop. It may be your own version of the shop, and it may roll out in a different timeline than mine did. But if you're getting the call, if you're getting that nag, which was happening for me, to like listen to your gut about that and see which ways that you can move forward one step at a time, which sounds a little bit more like easy to do than it is, but it's actually possible. I truly believe that. Like I have to say, like if I can do it, I feel like anybody can do it. And so if you want to, you can. I promise.
That's so great. The like I just that inspiration, and like the where you are now, like it's because you had that confidence and you went through it, even though you had the doubts along the way, but you kind of did it. You're there now. You get to go to your shop and like answer questions all day about herbs and just talk to people. Like that's yeah, such a fun place to be. And I think it's you can see that you have that joy in the way that you approach your work as an herbalist in your shop. So that's so lovely to see. I would really like to uh, introduce your store to whoever is watching, if they would like to see, or like if they would like to drop by, like where are you located, and then where else can people get in touch with you and the Herbal Scoop, whether that's Instagram or any other social channels or your website, etc.
Yeah. So if you are in the area, I am in Callicoon, New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City. So feel free to stop by. I would love to have you. If that's not in the cards for you right now, you can, everything I have in my shop, I have online. So you can go to theherbalscoop.com. You can also find like any workshops or anything else that I'm doing there in that space. And I mostly hang out on Instagram. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's the Herbal Scoop, and you'll see me pop up as well. Don't really hang out on any other channels. You can also email me. It's Kendra at theherbalscoop.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I would definitely like to pop by your store one day in the future when travel restrictions are slightly less strict than they are now.
Yeah.
And I think it would be lovely to yeah, see how it all is in person. So yeah, thank you so much for everything that you have shared today. It's been really, really enjoyable just to get the tour of your store and go a little bit deeper into your story and how you got to where you are today, because I think it's an incredible journey that you had that dream and that vision to help people and get it out there, and that you've actually pushed through those various little barriers and got to where you are now. So thank you for sharing everything that you have today with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a, a joyful moment to kind of share where I was and where I am now. And I hope that this can, give somebody the, the confidence to take the next step if they're wanting to, open up their own space. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure. And I hope we're going to see a lot more herbal little stores popping up around as a result of this and more.
That would be wonderful.